He talks about arriving at the main eating tent. And so I'm just going to read this whole passage because, again, we're getting a look into David Foster Wallace's maximalist style. So he's describing the main eating tent, for which there is a constant Disneyland grade queue, and which turns out to be a square quarter mile of awning-shaded cafeteria lines in rows of long institutional tables at which friend and stranger alike sit cheek by jowl, cracking and chewing and dribbling. Love that word. It's hot, and the sagged roof traps the steams and the smells, which latter are strong and only partly food related. It is also loud, and a good percentage of the total noise is masticatory, just like just these mofos. And he says you're sitting cheek and jowl next to these people. It sounds like a horrible time. This is the Gonzo journalism part, right? He's weaving in and out the actual description and experience of going to this place, but also these other sort of like extracurricular or like extra textual aspects, like, you know, what is the background of the lobster? What's like the historical context in which they've been compared to now? Hold up, sit break, you already know how it goes. And this is where we get a footnote number 6, which I will, okay, so these aren't all my annotations, by the way, I got this used, but the point is, this whole thing right here is one footnote, and this is very characteristic of David Foster Wallace's style, where he'll just go on these whole ass huge tangents, all in a footnote. For David Foster Wallace, footnote is canon. So let's go down this rabbit hole, basically talking about this nature of almost like the philosophy of tourism. He says, I confess that I have never understood why so many people's idea of a fun vacation is to don flip-flops and sunglasses and crawl through maddening traffic to loud, hot, crowded tourist venues in order to sample a local flavor that is by definition ruined by the presence of tourists. And then again, just like almost like that meta level stuff, he says, but since this footnote will almost surely not survive magazine editing anyway, here it goes. And he goes on this whole thing and he talks about why he is not a big fan of like this, I guess, tourism, hyper-capitalist tourist culture. My personal experience has not been that traveling around the country is broadening or relaxing, or that radical changes in place and context have a salutary effect, but rather that intranational tourism is radically constricting and humbling in the hardest way, hostile to my fantasy of being a true individual, of living somehow outside and above it all. All of this still in a footnote. To be a mass tourist for me is to become a pure late-date American, alien, ignorant, greedy for something you cannot ever have, disappointed in a way that you can never admit. It is to spoil, by way of sheer ontology, the very unspoiledness you are there to experience. It is to impose yourself on places that in all non-economic ways would be better, realer without you. It is, in lines and gridlocks and transaction after transaction, to confront a dimension of yourself that is as inescapable as it is painful. As a tourist, you become economically significant, but existentially loathsome, an insect on a dead thing. So just wow, what a whirlwind of a footnote, right? But you know, he's talking about like just this critique of tourism where like you're almost like a voyeur, you're going to try and like experience the actual place and culture itself, but as he says, you know, it's basically ontologically necessary that it's the exact opposite of what's happening. Economically significant, but existentially loathsome, an insect on a dead thing. I said, shit, all right, fine, I won't go on vacations anymore. So, and then you like go back up, it's like, okay, where were we? Because we're on footnote number 6. So we're starting to heat up here, right? We're getting into like that classic DFW style. We getting deep into the footnotes. We've already done some interesting reflection that's very unconventional in terms of like how a normal magazine article like this would go. If you go to somewhere like Disneyland or like you're in New York and you're just at like the most touristy spot, the whole thing does feel kind of like a sham. As he says, existentially icky. It's just very consumerist, right? You're there to just, everything costs money, like he's saying, you know, it costs $20 to get a fucking folding chair to watch people list off sponsors. It's all just money, money, money. It's this huge engine. And he even says too, we feel disappointed in a way that we do not want to, that we can never admit. Because, you know, when you go on vacation, there's almost like this expectation that you're going, you're having fun. You start checking off all the different touristy boxes. Half the time, it's not actually fun. If you just do like straight tourist shit and you're waiting in line, that shit is ass. But, you know, it's that kind of thing that you don't want to admit to yourself.